One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. Our guest today on One Question is Matt Powell, who is a sports industry analyst with NPD Group. And for my money, probably one of the most entertaining follows on Twitter. His handle is at NPD Matt Powell, and he suffers no fools when it comes to questions about the apparel and shoe industry, which makes him fun to follow. And Matt, I appreciate you joining, and I have 3 questions that I'd like to dig in on today as it relates to, of course, the 3 brands that operate heavily in college athletics: Nike, Adidas, and Under Armour. And I think I'll start with Nike, and I'd like for you to provide some context on the move for Nike to remove itself to a degree from the golf business and what impact that may have on the company as a whole.
Well, from a sales point of view, it's not going to have much of an impact. They did about $700 million all in last year in golf, in a business that's well over $30 billion. And most of that business was apparel and footwear, which they are going to continue, at least in the near term. I would estimate their golf equipment business to be $150 million or so, maybe $200 million. And so, for Nike, that's walking around money. So it will have very, very little impact on their overall sales.
Is the biggest potential impact that Rory McIlroy will end up with somebody else eventually, you think?
Absolutely. I don't think that they will continue to make equipment for him. He likely will finish out this year. You don't see players of that caliber switching up their equipment in mid-season kind of thing. But my expectation is that he'll end up with someone else for sure. On the Adidas front, yeah, go ahead. Yep. I was just going to say, in addition, I think this is an indicator of the decline that we're seeing in golf participation. The golf business has lost about 20% of the players over the last decade. More than 800 golf courses have closed. Smaller retailers are going out of business. You see Adidas is in the process of selling off TaylorMade and Adams. We had the issues with Quicksilver with Cleveland a couple of years ago. And so the golf business is not well, and I don't think is going to get appreciably better. And I think Nike's move is a further indicator of that happening. Which is an interesting trend as you apply it to college athletics, not only from a talent pool standpoint of prospective student athletes, way down the line, but also in many cases around the nation, former golf student athletes or donors who have a high affinity for that sport are some of the biggest supporters and givers to college athletic departments. So that's a very small blip on the radar of our industry, but it's one definitely worth watching as it impacts, well, really dollars and cents in college athletics to a degree. So you mentioned Adidas. Yeah, absolutely.
I want to ask you about Adidas and student athletes around the nation and others, and many of us are familiar with Adidas's move with Kanye and the Yeezy brand. But is that decision driving some of the market share that they are making up? And by all accounts, they've made some good progress over the last 12 or 24 months. Can we account some of Kanye's brand appeal to that?
I don't think so. He signed with them several years ago, and their business was not good in the United States for almost 24 months after they signed him. I think the real catalyst to the change in their business was that they made a decision, really around the time that they signed West, to move 200 product and marketing people from Germany to the United States to immerse themselves in the U.S. marketplace. And I think the products that we're seeing today at retail are a culmination of that personnel change. And to me, it's all about product. I'm a merchant. I'm a product guy. And clearly the Adidas product is vastly superior to what we were seeing from them a few years ago. And then I think the other piece is, if you look at the amount of pairs of West shoes, I mean, they probably sold, since the signing, 50,000 pairs, maybe 100,000 pairs of shoes. And last year, Adidas made over 300 million pairs of shoes. So the total relationship of the body of work to the small number of pairs they made with him really illustrates that he can't possibly have had much of an influence.
Interesting. And Under Armour, one of the big topics right now for us in college athletics around Under Armour was this survey that CBS Sports just came out with, where they polled a number of college basketball coaches. It seems as if, according to those results, Under Armour has moved ahead of Adidas in terms of brand appeal or share of mind for college basketball coaches. Is Under Armour, we read all about Kevin Plank's amazing aggressiveness and their international scope. Where's their biggest potential growth opportunity right now, Matt?
Well, it's really outside the United States. They've said that they want to get their international business to be half of their overall business, which is what it is for Nike at this point. 55% for Nike is done outside the United States. But then the other piece that is growing very quickly, much faster than apparel, is their footwear business. And certainly the acquisition of Curry into their stable has had a major catalyst in their footwear business, and his products continue to do very, very well.
So you talked about product for both Adidas and Under Armour moving forward, but is Under Armour jumping Adidas because it's even a more improved product, or is it easier for them to jump because they were so far behind in the first place with product?
Yeah, I think they're still a nascent brand here. I mean, they only have 3 or 4% of the U.S. market share in athletic footwear. Adidas has 6%, and Nike, has more than 50%. So Nike and Jordan combined. So they've still got a ways to go here to be a powerhouse brand. But I think the investment that they have made in collegiate sports is clearly beginning to pay off, and I think the survey we've seen indicates that the money that they have spent to acquire some real marquee teams has caught the attention of basketball coaches for sure.
On a really broad level, how does Amazon's continuing growth in e-commerce or e-commerce as a whole potentially negatively impact any of these three brands?
I don't see much. Nike does not sell them directly. Under Armour and Adidas will only let them have a little bit of product directly, and seem to be reluctant to expand that. All three really have robust websites of their own that contain content around their athletes, and things you can't see anywhere else on the internet. They all have significant portions of their business in their own e-commerce sites. So I really don't see Amazon having a big impact on these three brands. But clearly, in the sports space, they will continue to have a major footprint, more around equipment than footwear. They are a significant player in footwear, even though they don't have any Nike and very much of Adidas or Under Armour. They still do a lot of athletic footwear sales, but mostly it's done more in price point and through marketplace.
Last one, Matt. Is there any brand that you would identify as super under the radar right now that you really like what they're doing or has an interesting future? And maybe it's a brand in China or elsewhere. Is there anybody who comes to mind on that front?
There isn't, and that's unfortunate. I'm always on the lookout. I'm always hoping that we get another new brand pop up. In the technical running space, there's a couple of brands, Hoka 1-1 and Altra, that are doing some interesting things, and their business has certainly been quite robust. But that category is challenged, and so there really isn't anybody out there. Unfortunately, I'm disappointed actually that there isn't anybody out there that looks like they're popping up. There is one other interesting thing that I think is happening in the space, and that is that I've been doing research on the industry for 16 years. This is the first time in 16 years that we do not have a single performance category that is gaining in sales. Every single performance category, whether it's performance running, performance basketball, performance training, even the performance walk, what I would call performance walking business, are challenged right now. And we are clearly in a sportswear world. Most people who buy athletic shoes don't wear them for their intended purpose, but there's always been a performance category that sort of had a fashion cachet, and we're moving away from that. I don't know how I tie that into college sports, but it worries me that there's not the level of interest today in sports. Certainly, the poor Olympics ratings would indicate that. And so I don't know if I'm going to make a big claim here about where we are, but certainly the lack of interest in performance footwear is troubling.
You are connecting the lack of interest in performance footwear to cord cutting potentially, and as you mentioned, the Olympics ratings, especially in those younger demos, were really down. So 10 years from now, 20 years from now, we could see some major industry shifts, is I think what you might be getting after here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's so much sports on television today, 24/7. Even obscure sports. I was visiting a retailer recently, and they had a sports channel on in their waiting room, and they were showing the World Dart Championships. Okay, I mean, so there's just so much sports out there, and there's so many ways to consume it today. You don't have to sit down in front of your television at 1 o'clock on Sunday afternoon to watch an NFL game today, and there are so many other ways to experience the sport. And I think this Olympics indicates to us that maybe the big cash cow around television contracts has reached its apogee, just as one example of how the world may be changing.
And that's today's One Question, brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. One Question is designed to give D1 Ticker subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences. One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996.